At the age of 30, Daniel believed his life was already built. He had a stable job, a rented apartment in the city, and plans that seemed clear. Every morning, he woke up at the same time, drank his coffee, and went to work without thinking too much. Life felt normal, maybe even safe. But deep inside, he felt tired. Not physically, mentally. Daniel worked in a small company. The salary was not high, but it was enough to survive. He often told himself, "This is fine. Many people live like this." He stopped dreaming big. He stopped asking questions. He believed stability was more important than happiness. Then everything changed in 1 year. First, the company started to struggle. Clients left, money became tight, and stress filled the office. One cold morning, Daniel was called into a small room. The manager avoided eye contact and said the words Daniel never expected to hear. "We have to let you go." Just like that, the job was gone. Daniel walked home slowly that day. The city felt louder than usual. People were moving fast, but he felt frozen. He told himself it was temporary. "I will find another job," he thought. But weeks passed, then months. Interviews failed. Emails were ignored. His confidence started to break. Soon after, another problem came. Daniel could no longer afford his apartment. The rent felt heavier every month. One evening, he packed his things in silence. At 30 years old, he moved back to his parents' house. That night, he stared at the ceiling, feeling ashamed and empty. The worst part was not money or work. It was his mind. He felt like a failure. He compared himself to others, friends with careers, families, success. His inner voice became cruel. "You wasted your time. You are too late." Daniel avoided people. He stopped answering calls. Every day felt the same. Wake up, eat, think, regret, sleep. But deep inside that darkness, something small was still alive. A question. What if this is not the end? He did not know it yet, but losing everything was not closing his life. It was quietly preparing him for a new beginning. Weeks passed, but Daniel's life did not improve. Days felt heavy and slow. He woke up late, stayed in bed too long, and avoided mirrors. Every time he looked at himself, he saw disappointment. His parents tried to help, but Daniel felt like a burden. Their quiet kindness made his shame even stronger. One evening, Daniel sat alone in his old childhood room. The walls were the same, but he was not. He opened his phone and scrolled through social media. Smiling faces, promotions, weddings, new cars. Every picture felt like a reminder of what he did not have. He threw the phone on the bed and covered his face with his hands. That night, something broke inside him. For the first time, he admitted the truth. He was lost. Not just unemployed, directionless. He had followed safety for years, not passion. He had chosen comfort instead of growth. And now, comfort was gone. The next morning, Daniel went for a long walk. No music, no phone, just thoughts. He walked through the city streets where he once rushed to work. Everything looked different now. Slower, clearer. He asked himself hard questions. What do I really want? What am I afraid of? What have I been avoiding? The answers were painful but honest. Daniel realized he had never failed because he tried something big. He failed because he never tried at all. He lived on autopilot, waiting for life to be easy. Losing everything forced him to stop running. That afternoon, Daniel did something small but important. He bought a cheap notebook. On the first page, he wrote one sentence. "I take responsibility for my life." It felt strange, heavy, but also powerful. He began writing every day. Not goals, thoughts, fears, regrets. Slowly, patterns appeared. He noticed how often he doubted himself, how quickly he gave up when things felt uncomfortable. This awareness hurt, but it also gave him control. Daniel still had no job, no money, no clear plan, but something had changed. His mindset was no longer waiting for rescue. It was waking up. That night, before sleeping, he said quietly, "I don't know how yet, but I will rebuild." And for the first time in months, he slept without fear. The days after that decision were not magical. Daniel did not suddenly become confident or successful. In fact, most days still felt empty. But one thing was different. He stopped running from his thoughts. Every morning, he opened the notebook. At first, he wrote simple things. What I did yesterday. What I avoided. What made me afraid. He noticed something important. His fear was not failure. It was starting again from zero. At 30, he believed it was too late. This belief had controlled him for years. One afternoon, Daniel visited a small library near his parents' house. He had not been there since school. The place smelled of old paper and silence. He picked a book about people who restarted their lives late. He did not read much that day, but one sentence stayed in his mind. Your age is not the problem. Your mindset is. That sentence followed him home. Daniel began to change his routine. Nothing extreme. He woke up earlier, took short walks, read 10 pages a day. He limited social media because it drained his energy. These were small actions, but they gave him structure, and structure gave him calm. One evening, his father sat next to him at the kitchen table. "You look different," he said. Daniel smiled slightly. "I feel awake." For the first time, Daniel did not feel ashamed of his situation. He accepted it. Acceptance did not mean giving up. It meant seeing reality clearly. A week later, Daniel made a brave decision. He applied for a simple job at a local warehouse. It was not his dream. The pay was low, but it was honest work. When he received the call, he felt nervous, but also proud. He was moving again. On his first day, his body was tired, but his mind was sharp. He listened. He learned. He observed people. Many of them had stories like his, quiet struggles, hidden restarts. That night, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Progress is not loud. It is quiet and consistent." He still had a long road ahead, but now he was walking it, not waiting, not hiding. The restart had begun. Working at the warehouse was harder than Daniel expected. The hours were long, the tasks repetitive, and his body ached every evening. Some days, he questioned his decision. "Is this really my future?" he thought while lifting heavy boxes. But unlike before, he did not quit mentally. He reminded himself, this job was not the destination, it was a bridge. During breaks, Daniel observed people around him. There was Alex, a quiet man in his 40s who worked carefully and never complained. There was Sam, young and energetic, always talking about his dreams. Daniel realized something important. Everyone was carrying something invisible. One night, after a long shift, Daniel felt overwhelmed. Old thoughts returned. "You failed. You're behind everyone. You should have done better." Instead of escaping, he sat with those thoughts. He opened his notebook and wrote them down. Then, under each sentence, he wrote a response. "I failed, but I'm still here. I'm behind, but I'm moving. I made mistakes, but I'm learning." This simple exercise gave him clarity. Daniel also started learning after work, just 30 minutes a night. He watched free videos about basic skills, communication, planning, and problem solving. No pressure, no ruse, just progress. One weekend, his old friend Mark called him. "I heard you're back home," Mark said. Daniel felt embarrassed for a second, then answered honestly, "Yes, I lost everything." Mark paused. That takes courage to admit. That conversation surprised Daniel. He realized that honesty created connection, not weakness. At the warehouse, his supervisor noticed his attitude. Daniel was not the fastest worker, but he was reliable. He asked questions. He showed respect. Small things, but they mattered. After 1 month, Daniel received his first paycheck. It was modest, but when he held it, he felt something powerful, dignity. He earned it. That night, he wrote, "This is not success, but this is foundation." The weight of reality was still heavy. Life was still uncertain, but Daniel was no longer crushed by it. He was learning how to stand. And for the first time in years, he believed that standing was enough for now. As weeks passed, Daniel noticed a quiet change inside himself. His life was still simple, even difficult, but his mind was becoming stronger. He no longer woke up asking, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, he asked, "What can I do today?" This small shift made a big difference. Every morning, Daniel woke up 30 minutes earlier, not to work harder, but to think clearly. He drank a cup of tea, sat by the window, and planned his day. 3 small goals only. Nothing big, nothing overwhelming. Do my job well. Learn one new thing. Take care of my mind. At work, Daniel started to enjoy responsibility. When problems appeared, he did not panic. He asked himself, "What is in my control?" This question saved his energy. He stopped worrying about things he could not change. One day, a machine stopped working during his shift. Others waited for the supervisor, but Daniel tried to understand the problem first. He checked simple things, followed safety rules, and finally found a loose cable. The machine worked again. His supervisor looked at him with surprise. "Good thinking," he said. That moment stayed with Daniel all day. After work, Daniel continued learning. He did not jump between topics. He chose one skill: communication. He practiced listening more than speaking. He learned how to explain ideas simply. Slowly, people began to respect him more. Daniel also changed how he spoke to himself. When he made mistakes, he did not attack himself. He said, "This is part of the process." This kindness gave him strength instead of fear. One evening, he met Sam from work outside the warehouse. They talked about life, money, and fear. Sam admitted he was scared of staying in the same place forever. Daniel smiled softly. "I was scared of starting again," he said, "but starting small saved me." That night, Daniel realized something important. Success was not a sudden event. It was a series of quiet decisions made every day. He wrote in his notebook, "I don't need to be ahead of everyone. I only need to be better than yesterday." His life was still far from perfect, but his mindset was no longer broken. And that change was more powerful than money, titles, or past failures. For the first time since losing everything, Daniel felt calm about the future. He did not see a clear road yet, but he trusted his steps, and that trust changed everything. Months passed quietly, but Daniel's efforts were not invisible. People at work began to notice his discipline, calm attitude, and reliability. He was no longer just the new guy. He was someone others trusted. One morning, the supervisor called Daniel into his office. "We're starting a small training group for new workers," he said. "I want you to help." Daniel was surprised. He had never seen himself as a leader. His first instinct was fear. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? But then he remembered something important. Growth begins where comfort ends. "I'll try," Daniel said calmly. Helping others was different from working alone. He had to explain tasks clearly, stay patient, and listen carefully. At first, he made mistakes. Sometimes he spoke too fast. Sometimes people didn't understand him. Instead of feeling embarrassed, Daniel learned from each moment. At home, he practiced explaining simple ideas in simple words. He read about leadership and human behavior, not for status, but to become useful. Slowly, the training group improved. New workers felt more confident. The supervisor noticed this change and gave Daniel more responsibility. Not more money yet, but more trust. That trust changed Daniel's confidence. Outside of work, Daniel also improved his personal habits. He reduced social media. He spent more time reading and walking. During walks, he reflected on his life, not with regret, but with curiosity. What kind of man do I want to become? He often asked himself. He didn't want fast success. He wanted stable success. One weekend, Daniel received a message from his old friend Mark. Mark had heard about Daniel's changes and wanted to meet. During coffee, Mark asked carefully, "How did you recover after losing everything?" Daniel paused, then answered honestly. "I stopped trying to save my old life," he said. "I started building a new one." That sentence surprised even Daniel himself. It felt true. Later that night, Daniel wrote again in his notebook. Opportunities don't arrive loudly. They come quietly when you are ready. His life was still simple. His income was still limited. But his direction was clear. He was no longer running from his past. He was walking toward his future, step by step. And for the first time, Daniel felt something stronger than fear. He felt belief. As weeks turned into months, something inside Daniel began to change. His life was still not easy, but his mind was stronger. Problems no longer felt like enemies. They felt like lessons. One evening, after a long day at work, Daniel sat alone in his small room. He was tired but calm. He opened his notebook and read old pages. He saw fear, pain, anger, and doubt. But he also saw growth. He realized something important. His biggest change was not external, it was internal. Before, Daniel blamed the world for his failure. Now he took responsibility for his actions, thoughts, and habits. This shift gave him power. At work, challenges continued. A project failed. A delivery arrived late. Some coworkers complained. In the past, Daniel would panic or feel ashamed. Now he stayed quiet, listened, and focused on solutions. One coworker said, "You're different. You don't react like others." Daniel smiled slightly. He didn't explain. Silence had become his strength. Because of his calm behavior, people trusted him more. They asked for advice. Some asked how to stay focused under pressure. Daniel never acted like an expert. He simply shared his experience. "I learned to control small things," he said. Sleep, time, reactions. At home, Daniel created a strict but simple routine. Wake up early. Read for 20 minutes. Write goals. Exercise lightly. Work with focus. Sleep on time. There was nothing special about these habits, but they were consistent. Some nights, doubt returned. A quiet voice asked, "What if this is not enough? What if you fail again?" Daniel answered that voice calmly. "Maybe I will fail," he whispered, "but I will not stop." This mindset changed everything. One day, Daniel received an email about an internal opportunity. The company was opening a new department. They needed someone reliable, disciplined, and patient. The role was not glamorous, but it offered growth. Daniel hesitated. Applying meant risk. Rejection was still painful. But then he remembered his past, losing everything at 30. That pain had not destroyed him. It had shaped him. He applied. Waiting was difficult. Days passed slowly. But instead of checking his phone every minute, Daniel focused on his routine. No matter the result, he knew one thing. He was no longer the man who collapsed after failure. He was the man who learned to stand quietly. That quiet strength was building something powerful inside him, something no one could take away. And soon life would test it. The email arrived on a quiet morning. Daniel saw the company name on his phone screen and felt his heart beat faster. He didn't open it immediately. Instead, he took a deep breath, washed his face, and finished his morning routine. Only after that did he sit down and open the message. "Thank you for applying. We would like to invite you for an interview." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, not from excitement, but from gratitude. This was not success yet, but it was proof that his effort mattered. The interview was scheduled for the next week. 7 days felt like a long time. Old anxiety tried to return, but Daniel handled it differently now. Each day, he prepared calmly. He reviewed his work experience. He practiced speaking clearly. He wrote down lessons from his past failures, not to hide them, but to explain how they changed him. On the day of the interview, Daniel wore simple clothes. Nothing expensive, nothing flashy, just clean, neat, and comfortable. The room was quiet. 3 managers sat across from him. Their faces were serious. They asked about his past. "You left your previous job suddenly," one manager said. "Why?" Daniel did not lie. He did not blame anyone. "I lost control of my life," he answered. "I ignored discipline. I ignored responsibility. I paid the price." The room stayed silent. Another manager leaned forward. "Why should we trust you now?" Daniel looked up, calm and honest. "Because I learned," he said, "and I changed slowly, not loudly." They asked difficult questions. About stress. About failure. About leadership. Daniel did not try to impress them. He focused on clarity, honesty, and calm answers. When he didn't know something, he said so. The interview ended without any clear sign. Walking home, doubt whispered again. Maybe you talked too simply. Maybe they wanted confidence, not calm. That night, Daniel felt tired. He wanted to overthink everything. But instead, he wrote one sentence in his notebook. "I did my best with discipline." Days passed. No message. No call. The silence tested him. In the past, this waiting would have destroyed his focus. Now, he returned to his routine. Work, reading, exercise, sleep. One evening, while cleaning his room, Daniel found an old photo of himself at 30. His eyes were tired. His face was angry. He compared it with his reflection in the mirror now. He looked older, but stronger. Even if the answer was no, he knew something important. He had rebuilt himself from the inside. Then, one afternoon, his phone rang. Unknown number. Daniel answered calmly. "Hello." "Daniel," a voice said. "This is from the management team. We made a decision." Daniel listened in silence. His future was about to change, one way or another. Daniel held the phone tightly, listening to the voice on the other side. "We discussed your interview carefully," the manager said. "Your experience is not perfect. Your past has risks." Daniel stayed silent. His heart was calm, but deep inside, tension was rising. However, the voice continued. "Your honesty, self-awareness, and discipline stood out." Daniel closed his eyes. "We would like to offer you the position." For a moment, Daniel couldn't speak. "Thank you," he finally said. His voice was quiet, but full of meaning. After the call ended, he didn't celebrate loudly. He didn't call everyone. He sat on his bed and looked at the wall. His job was not just work. It was proof that rebuilding yourself is possible, even after losing everything. On his first day, Daniel arrived early. Very early. The office was modern, bright, and calm. He watched people enter, confident, focused, busy. A year ago, he would have felt small among them. Now he felt ready. The manager introduced him to the team. "This is Daniel," she said. "He brings strong discipline and a fresh mindset." Daniel nodded politely. He didn't try to impress anyone. He listened more than he spoke. The work was challenging. New systems, tight deadlines, high expectations. Mistakes happened. Once, Daniel sent the wrong report. Another time, he misunderstood instructions. His old self would have panicked. Instead, he corrected the errors, apologized briefly, and learned. Week by week, his confidence grew quietly. One evening, a coworker asked him, "How do you stay so calm under pressure?" Daniel smiled. "I lost everything once," he said. "Pressure doesn't scare me anymore." Months passed. Daniel was no longer just an employee. People trusted him. They asked for his opinion. His manager noticed his consistency. One afternoon, she called him into her office. "We want to give you more responsibility," she said. "You've earned it." Walking home that day, Daniel felt something new, not pride but peace. He remembered the nights of doubt, the empty bank account, the shame. All of it had led him here. That evening, Daniel opened his notebook and wrote, "Success is not noise. It is quiet progress." He knew the journey wasn't over. But one thing was clear now. No matter who laughs at you, doubts you, or leaves you, if you change your mindset and stay disciplined, life will respond. And soon, someone from his past would see him again and realize how wrong they were. 1 year later, Daniel stood in front of a mirror in his small apartment. Not a luxury place, not a dream home, but it was his. He adjusted his shirt and looked into his own eyes. He didn't see the broken man from the past anymore. He saw someone calm, focused, and strong. That morning, Daniel received a message. "Hey, it's Mark. Long time no see. Are you free today?" Mark, the same friend who once laughed at his plans. The same voice that doubted him when he was at his lowest. Daniel paused. Then he replied, "Yes. Let's meet." They met at a quiet cafe. Mark looked surprised. "You look different," he said. "More confident." Daniel smiled gently. "Life teaches fast when it's hard." Mark hesitated. "I heard you're doing well now." "I'm doing better," Daniel replied. "Not perfect, just better." Mark looked down. "I didn't believe in you back then. I was wrong." Daniel nodded. "No anger, no pride." "I don't blame you," he said. "I didn't believe in myself either." That was the moment Daniel understood something powerful. Winning is not about proving others wrong. It's about becoming someone you respect. Later that evening, Daniel walked alone through the city. The lights were calm. The noise felt distant. He thought about his journey, losing everything at 30, starting again with nothing, building habits instead of dreams, choosing discipline over comfort, silence over excuses. None of it was fast. None of it was easy, but it was real. Daniel opened his notebook one last time and wrote, "Growth happens when you stop explaining and start becoming." He closed the book. Tomorrow, he would wake up early, read, work, learn, improve. Not because he had to, but because this was who he was now. And if someone laughed again, he wouldn't mind. Because the man who survives failure and chooses discipline will always rise stronger.